Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, that's a lot of cocoa. Coco Cocoa is a 9.5% Imperial Stout from Brew Detroit in Detroit, Michigan. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say this. I think Brew Detroit is one of the most underrated breweries around, and they really churn out quality products, and thankfully it's always at an awesome price point, so you can't really overrate that, can you? Let's take a look at the label. We'll get it into a glass. But first, I'd like to thank my executive producers, Ryan Berry, Eric Latowski, Brian Kramer, Zach, and Cam Freeman for helping to bring this review to you today. If you'd like to become a producer, help out the channel, or maybe just buy me a beer, take a look at my Patreon at patreon.com/draft_therapy, where you can get early access to these videos, exclusive patron-only live streams, and a few other special perks available only to patrons. Only to patrons. So, let's take a look at this label here. So on the front here, it says Brew Detroit, Coco Cocoa, and it kind of cascades down. It reminds me very much between both the colors and this font choice here and the way it's represented of something that like late 70s, early 80s. If we look at the colors from left to right, it goes dark brown, brown, orange. Then Coco Cocoa is in a brown with a cascading stroked font. That's what that's called, stroked. So don't give me any grief about being stroked. On the bottom, it says Imperial Stout 1 pint, and then we have the orange, brown, and dark brown. If we turn it to the back, it has the Brew Detroit, Michigan logo. It says Imperial Stout, stout with lactose, coconut, and cacao nibs. Then it has the Detroit, Michigan. It actually has a picture of Michigan here with Detroit starred here, and then the independent craft beer logo. 9.5% alcohol by volume. On the flip side of the spine, it says has the government warning, and then Brew Detroit LLC, Detroit, Michigan. If we look on the bottom, the canned on date is January, I believe this says 28th, 2021. I feel kind of guilty because I've been sitting on this one for a little bit. I don't know why. I went out and checked all my beer stock to see what I wanted to review, and I had this one, and I'm like, why haven't I done this one earlier? I was really pumped about doing it, and I think all these other beer releases came out. Maybe I underrated it myself, which I shouldn't have been doing. But let's go ahead and crack it. We'll get a nose on the can here. Cracking. All right, let's put a nose on it. Smells very chocolatey. It has a bit of a Tootsie Roll kind of smell to it, actually. But it's very chocolatey. You can smell that chocolate. It has a bit of, you can smell a little bit of roasty malts in there as well. Let's go ahead and pour it. Really dark coming out of the glass here. I can actually see through it though as I'm pouring it. I can see directly through it. Take a look at that. As you can see from the overhead, it's got a nice compact bubble set. It's got some larger bubbles around the top of it, and those bubbles look to be settling down a bit. The head is a bit of a, it's kind of just off-white. It's a little bit more of a light brown. It's not quite coffee, it's not quite khaki, but it's very light. Holding my fingers up to it, I got about 2 fingers worth of head. It's a generous 2 fingers. It's a little bit closer to 1.5, but we'll say it's 2 fingers. Let's go ahead and hold it up to the light here. Holding up to these lights, again, I've moved my lights around, so if it looks kind of weird, hopefully I keep it all in frame. Very dark, uniform dark from top to bottom. There is a little bit of a brownish kind of coloration around the bulb of the bottom of this glass, which is different because a lot of stouts seem to be a little bit more of that crimson, a little bit more of that purplish kind of color. This one is definitely in the brown category. Let's put a nose on the glass. Yeah, again, getting really deep roasted malty aromas, very chocolatey. A little bit of coconut is actually shining through now. So I think I lost a little bit of that Tootsie Roll aroma I was getting out of the can, and it's kind of been replaced a little bit with coconut because now it feels like, it doesn't feel like, it smells like the coconut has really started getting very pronounced. So let's go ahead and try it out. Cheers. Start with mouthfeel. Mouthfeel is not super thick, not syrupy, a little bit heavier than medium. I go on a scale usually from light to heavy, and syrupy is like the edge of the heavy scale, or thick, or whatever. It's a little bit heavier than medium. It's not super thick, but it definitely coats your tongue a little bit. Let's talk about the flavor. Let's get a little bit deeper into this. flavor is on point, and what I like to see out of a stout like this. So everything it says on the label, I talked about. We had stout, coconut, cacao nibs, very chocolatey. The coconut is definitely on the up front. It's not actually, it kind of works its way throughout. It's like the common thread that holds this beer together. Up front is where the coconut really kind of it shines at first, and then following the coconut is where this deep, dark, very dark, rich, chocolatey flavor comes through. It's not fudgy, but it's very kind of almost baker's chocolate bitter. But it subsides a little bit and it sweetens out as it kind of, you know, the aftertaste kind of pours through, and the coconut just kind of holds it all together. I'm not picking up on these first couple tastes much on the lactose. Like, I can usually almost pinpoint lactose, and it comes through for me like a bit of a bitterness, like a artificial sweetener bitterness. I'm not really picking up on that. I'm thinking maybe the lactose is in there and it's adding to kind of enhance a bit of that coconut flavor, because on the swallow, I'm still picking up a little bit of coconut. But this is basically, to really break it down into very simple and basic terms, it is very chocolatey, very coconutty. It's like having an Almond Joy. You know, you're just kind of missing the almond. I guess that's Mounds. No, Mounds doesn't have the nuts. Almond Joy obviously does, because it's called an Almond Joy. If it was called Mounds, then it would be an Almond Joy without the almonds. So yeah, it's more like a Mounds, right? So you're getting a little bit of that. Well, you're getting a bit of that chocolate, and you're getting that sweet coconut flavor. Coconut on its own isn't necessarily sweet, so I'm thinking the lactose is in there that's kind of enhancing that coconut flavor, adding to the coconut sweetness. Yeah, I mean, this is a great sipping beer. It's 9.5% ABV. I don't really consider 9.5% to be, you know, some crazy amount these days. I feel like that's pretty standard for an imperial stout. It's not barrel aged, so you're not getting into that barrel kind of quality. But this is definitely a sipper, and I'm not sipping this, unfortunately, right now. But to really appreciate it, I think you want to use it as a sipper. And now that it's kind of sat in my mouth and I've talked, you know, maybe too much about this beer, I feel like there is a little bit of a bitterness, like a lactosey kind of bitterness that shines through on the very late aftertaste, but also it embodies like this really dark, deep roasted malty flavor. So it's these really dark roasted malts that you kind of get on the aftertaste, as well as maybe a little bit of a lactose bitterness. But again, you know, I said that I felt that Brew Detroit was like a really underrated brewery for the area, or maybe even for the state. And this has not swayed my opinion at all. I haven't heard too many people talking about this one, but 9.5%, if you're a coconut fan, this is definitely for you. And I feel like if you're a coconut fan, this is one you'd want to pick up. But I feel just in general, as a stout fan, as long as you're not, you know, lactose intolerant or have some kind of aversion to lactose, I think this should be in the conversation as one of the better, you know, imperial stouts that Michigan has to offer. And I really feel like this is a beer that should propel Brew Detroit, along with, you know, a multitude of their other beers, as being one of those breweries that people talk about when they talk about Michigan. I just feel like they're not really in that conversation, but I think that they have been doing, especially lately, they've been doing an amazing work, churning out quality product and at a really quality price. All right, friends, that has been Coco Cocoa from Brew Detroit. Have you had this beer yet, or do you have a brewery that you think is really just underrated in the state? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there, if you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell, because I'm here talking about beer twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's all for free for viewers just like you, and you might miss your newest favorite if you're not subscribed and getting those notifications. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries, and most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Cheers.